Okay guys, welcome to another episode of the Self-Made Mind podcast. We have a very special guest with us this evening, coming all the way over from New York, the Big Apple. His name is Ross Katz. Big welcome, Ross.
Well, hello there.
How's it going over there?
It's as far as living through a pandemic goes, New York's a great place. I love New York, and I gotta say that New Yorkers definitely pull together at distressing times. So it actually feels good to be in New York.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think we can speak as English people and say that I think we've pulled together as well in the same way. So I think that's a global thing, hopefully.
I hope so.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you on, Ross. Thank you for coming on first of all, and we'd just like to share your journey so far with the listeners. So if we could take it back to the beginning, Ross, where it all began, and just if you can speak about your childhood with us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in a town outside of Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is definitely I don't know. I think it's maybe the fifth kind of biggest market in the country. It's a big city. New York is bigger, and but Philadelphia is a big city. But I lived in a pretty, I would say cloistered town, about a half an hour outside of the city, and a very conservative town. And I would say I didn't learn a whole bunch about the rest of the world around me from within that town. Yeah. So when I moved into Philadelphia, but I had always had this itch as a kid to, really, really young, the first time I experienced certain movies, because I had my family, my mom's been through 2 divorces, and a good thing to do is drop the kids off at the movie theaters when there isn't a pandemic. And for me, those were really they were transformational moments. But I thought, we're a working class family. We're not wealthy. We don't have any kind of connection or knowledge or any way into that world, that Hollywood thing, that idea of New York City, Los Angeles, London is a huge filmmaking capital, but it was not really plausible for a kid like me to, coming from a family without, money and power and connections, to sort of get into that world. And then I just I started to go to school at Temple University in North Philadelphia, and it opened my eyes definitely a bit, because there was no diversity where I grew up. And Philadelphia, one of the great things about it is it's incredibly diverse. In terms of race and religion, belief system, socioeconomics. It's just, where I grew up, it was kind of, everybody was, working class, hardworking, not quite living the dream, but living in a way that was acceptable.
Yeah.
And when I got to Philadelphia, I thought, oh my God, this is only a half an hour from me. What else is out there? And so I basically went, after 2 years of film school, I couldn't afford to keep going, but the idea was I was going to transfer to LA because I had decided, okay, you know what? I can't shake this movie thing. I mean, I know it's not really like, I know I don't know anyone. I know and I've heard all the stories that you have to know people and your uncle has to be this or whatever. And I, said to my parents, I'm going to drop out of school and drive 3,000 miles across the country to Los Angeles, and I'm going to make movies. And the silence and shock, it's hard to tell which it was. Was it just silence? Was it shock silence? I just remember this sort of like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna have to we'll talk about that. And I have very supportive parents, and I said, if I try and fail, like, at least I tried, but I don't want to be, 70 years old and look in the rearview mirror and say, I didn't try, I didn't try. And off I went to LA, not knowing anybody, renting a room for less than $200 a month, and got my first job.
So I'm just kind of relating to that, where you say, you tell your parents that you want to travel for 3,000 miles, and I think the natural sort of parenthood reaction is, they want the best for you, but at the same time they can also hold you back. And I think I've certainly experienced that before I set my business up. You hear things like, it's so risky, it'll cost you a lot of money, but and it's a tricky situation for a parent, I think. So is that kind of how
I think also my parents are of a generation that working, having passion for what you do and how you do it for a living, it just wasn't a factor. Your job in life was to provide for your family.
Yeah.
And a job did not mean that you're going to be excited about what you're doing, or you're going to be entrepreneurial, or you're going to be innovative. A job meant that you would have a paycheck that would be enough, just enough to cover keep the electricity on and put food on the table.
Yeah.
You didn't chase your dreams.
Yeah. Just getting a job, which I've heard someone say it stands for just over broke, which I think is quite accurate, I suppose. Yeah. So I think you mentioned as well. You mentioned the going to the film school and dropping out. So how did you actually go on to learn about your industry then, if you dropped out of film school?
Well, I don't want to. It's funny because my brother is the total opposite. I always used to say, like, at least one of the kids turned out good, because my brother, coming from the same family, my brother got scholarships to two of the best universities in the world. He did his undergraduate work at Stanford University in California, and then he got his law degree at Yale University. And you know, the percentage of people that gets admitted to Yale is so tiny. And that in between, he was like, "Oh, I'm going to work this summer for the Department of Justice for President Clinton, for Bill Clinton." And it was like, what am I and this idiot talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark and how I'm going to like make a movie someday? And my brother's like working for, you know, the President's Justice Department. Oh, I'm a flop already, you know. But the most supportive person was my brother, and the way that I learned was, and this is why I'm very careful the way I lay this out. I'm not opposed at all to film schools. I think there are some great film schools. But what I do have a difficult time with is I meet with students who have just graduated, and I don't know about in the UK, but in the US, for example, the biggest film schools, you know, probably NYU and USC, you know, your 4-year degree costs about $300,000.
Wow.
And they come to me and say, "Could I have an informational interview about, you know, movie making?" And they say, "You know, I could give you without any notes, I could give you a dissertation on Kubrick or David Lean or Kurosawa or some of the great filmmakers. But to be honest with you, I want to know, what the hell do I do now?" Yeah. Like what? And I'm thinking to myself, you went through 4 years of school and $300,000 that you're going to be paying off for 30 years, you know, and you don't have guidance on what, like how to get there, how to find your path, you know. And what I felt very lucky about was my first job was as an intern on Quentin Tarantino's first film, Reservoir Dogs.
Wow.
And at the time, you know, now it's seen as this huge classic, and it is a classic. It's an incredible movie. But while we were making the movie, the crew in Los Angeles, a good portion of the crew was a little bit salty when it came to Quentin, because they were like, "Who is this guy? He's like a big personality. He works at a video store. Like he's not a real director." Yeah. And of course, he went on to be one of the biggest that there is in the world, you know. And he literally was working at a video store until he made, you know, Reservoir Dogs. And I think part of that, what happened during the, you know, 30-day shoot and the post-production editing and the music and all that, where I stayed on as an intern, was I learned more on one movie, making no money, being completely broke, maxing out credit cards, than I did in 2 years of film school. And it was rolling up your sleeves and not reading about, you know, theory and the academics of filmmaking, but physically, you know, this is a scene where two people are going to have an argument over a dinner. how do you shoot that when there are cars passing by, and when, you know, how does that fit into the story? And, you know, even learning how to read a script, how to take, you know, prose and turn it into a language that is then interpreted into something visual. I really learned that a screenplay is an incredibly different kind of writing than writing a novel, you know, or writing poetry, you know. Yeah. And so I think it was each experience I continued to learn different aspects of the business. I went from there. I worked for, who sadly passed away about, I think it's about 8 or 9 years now. You know, one of the world's great filmmakers, Sidney Pollack, and he had done The Way We Were, 3 Days of the Condor, and he was partners with Anthony Minghella, who died very prematurely and very young. And again, when I would be doing these things like picking up lunch for him or picking up his dry cleaning, but what I got in return for that was I got to say, you know, hey, I watched the 3 Days of the Condor with Robert Redford and Faye Dunaway, and it's one of my favorite movies. And I just, like, how did you do this? Because I can't in my head understand, you know, physically how you got Robert Redford from the front door to, you know, across the street to Faye Dunaway or whatever the question was. And it was like, oh my God, I'm getting my own master class. I'm happy to pick up your salad and your lunch, you know. Yeah. And, you know, not every filmmaker is approachable or wants to talk about it. But I was lucky, and then I continued on with this remarkable woman named Lindsay Duran, who is a producer and extraordinary with storytelling. And working with Lindsay for 3 years as an assistant. And she was really an open book to me in terms of, you know, I was able to, I wouldn't say she took me on as a student. I would say I kind of like pushed her into being a mentor. Yeah. And she was incredible. We're still friends. It was a long time ago. And, and just, we worked together on Sense and Sensibility, which was Ang Lee's film with Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet, and Hugh Grant. And that was a whole other kind of learning experience because I was at the time based in Los Angeles. And so I was looking at the film as someone, you know, I was learning how to see the film come in bits and pieces, because I was not in the UK where they were shooting.
Right. Yeah.
And it was every time I did a film or worked on a film, I learned something so new and so different. And it's funny, like I always say this, but making a movie is the same every time and completely different every time. Yeah. You know, there's just certain things that are definitely going to happen. Mm-hmm. And then there are, but there's not been a single film that I've worked on that has not had something that was a brand new challenge, you know, and so it's really my learning of, you know, how movies are made, and both physically how they're made, you know, from you know where lights go and how you bring the actors to the set, but also really learning the inception of, how does it start? You have an idea. How do you turn that idea into something that can be a small short story or a treatment? And then how do you take a short story and turn that into, a 3-act piece of writing?
Yeah.
And how do you take that 3-act piece of writing and turn it into something that people can see and hear and feel in a movie theater or on their television?
Yeah. Yeah.
I learned all of that just by being thrown in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think just listening to that, I think there's some really good takeaways from that approach you took there, Ross. It's kind of, not just in filmmaking. I think in anything, if you can get around the people that are, physically doing what you want to do, like you say, just shadow them, take everything in, and like I say, be like a sponge. And I think that's definitely the best way to learn. It's
well, and I think whether you are, I'm very non-judgmental about what people are interested in. So, like, I have a good friend who he's really interested in purely the business of making film and television. He's actually not that interested. He's really not interested in storytelling. He loves to like, he looks at it like a giant puzzle. How do you, if a movie is worth this amount of money in Spain, this amount of money in the UK, this amount of money in the US, how do you raise that money and pay those people back and go through banks and taxes and all that? I mean, stuff that is that's not my DNA,
entrepreneurial.
But the key to it for me has been, I didn't have a fancy degree. I didn't have a pedigree of, I was alumnus of a famous school with a connection to X, Y, or Z. But I had the one thing that I think is mandatory, at least for my business. And that is that, it is a bad idea to go into, in my view, a business feeling wishy-washy or on the fence or, I'll try it. There will be I know in my business, in the film business, there will be 1,000 people in front of you and behind you who are practically leaping out of their shoes just to get a chance to be near a movie set.
Yeah.
And my enthusiasm, I think, my passion for doing it was really pure. And I think people picked up on that. I didn't show up and say, I'm going to have a Rolls Royce and live in Beverly Hills. I showed up and said, I saw Midnight Express in the theaters, and I went to see this Martin Scorsese film, and I didn't even know that they made movies like that. And it was for 18 or older, but I kind of like lied about my age so I could get in. And like, people pick up on that energy.
Yeah.
And they want to support that energy.
Yeah.
But when you have someone who comes into, and I'm not talking about like just a job that a lot of us need, just a job to sustain ourselves. I'm talking about like a passion for a career.
Yeah.
When you come in, as people have with me before, you can feel it when they are kind of like, yeah, this is interesting. I'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to, you're not excited about them. They probably would do a perfectly adequate job, but do you want adequate, or do you want someone who who brings passion to whatever it is they do? And I mean whatever it is that they do. I mean, my brother is a lawyer who has worked on everything, worked for the government, worked in private law firms. He is passionate about the law and about interpreting the law, you know, and people pick up on that. And I think that's kind of how I got my jobs without having a fancy degree or money to back me up or connections, was almost like not leaving the room until they said, okay, you can work for us for free, you know?
Yeah. Kind of a bit of a self-belief type arrogance. If it sounds like to me, like in confident in your own ability to go and be able to just, you know, I'm here for a reason.
Well, that's a really interesting, you know, that's really interesting, Chris, because for me, it's all, I had a coffee once with a very, very famous actress. And, you know, she is so elegant and magnificent and brilliant. And we stopped talking about the script that we were meeting about. We were just talking about life. And she turned to me at one point and she said, you know, I mean, we're all kind of frauds at the end of the day, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, you're not. I am, but you're not, you know? And the thing is that I was incredibly insecure, but you know, there was a battle going on in my head, which was I could either go in that room as the, you know, kind of wilting lily that I am, you know, or I could let the other part of me win for just one interview. The other part of me that says, your blood boils, like you get excited. Your knuckles are white from squeezing the movie theater, you know, chair when you're watching for the first time Raiders of the Lost Ark or 2001: A Space Odyssey or something. Like, if I can let that part of me win, the minute I'm in the parking lot, I'd be the first person to say, I shouldn't have said this. This was not articulate. I sounded stupid. All the self-doubt and all of the insecurity would just come flooding to me. I'm never going to get this job. I'm never going to get to work, you know, but I was able to say to myself, you have to push pause on those negative voices for just a little bit of time. And not have cocky bravado where you are, you know, I've had kind of, you know, worked with plenty of people who kind of, who want you to know how smart they are and how, you know, their filmic sensibility and you know, and it's such a turnoff because you can absolutely tell when it's just posturing. But when it's raw and it's coming from a place of really genuine, you know, I mean, I used to beg my mom, please. So my mom, I remember this is all, I'm 49, right? So, Mom, please let me go. Please take me to see Back to the Future. Well, my mom was like, we can't afford it. You saw it 3 times already in the theater. I was like, just one more time. Just one more time. You know? And like, you can't buy that from someone. You can't take a class on that. Mm-hmm. It's there or it isn't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's tapping into what your passion is and what your, you know, being entrepreneurial. Mm. I want to be an owner. I want to have a company. I want whatever it is. It's tapping. It's like diving all the way in. But when you just put like a little foot in the water, most people pick up on that.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I think you've talked about a couple of things there that are really important. There's one that's the kind of the inner dialogue that we all battle with, the good chimp and the bad chimp. And like I said, just before you were going into an interview there, you just, tell it to stop and just let the real authentic, passion come through. And I think that's really powerful just to pass on to people. And yeah, that's brilliant, Ross. Yeah.
Well, and I also realized too that, one thing that I used to think about was, while I was sitting nervously, waiting to be interviewed as an entry level assistant, and there were 25 candidates, was thinking, the big boss that I'm about to interview with, at some point in their life, they were sitting in the chair that I'm sitting in now, with their hands shaking and their resume, reading and rereading their resume. And like, they know what that feels like. Mm. And so that helped me humanize, as opposed to, oh my God, I'm going to pull back the curtain and meet Oz. Mm-hmm. I would try to, I would try to just remember that there was a point in their life where they weren't this big person who was hiring people and had a studio or whatever,
They were just like the Scarecrow at one point.
That's right. You're right.
Yeah. Amazing, Ross. Yeah. So if you could just wanted to kind of just recall a couple of your biggest achievements up to date, Ross, and if you could just tell us about, obviously you've won a Golden Globe from producing the film Lost in Translation, which is a amazing achievement. Could you just tell us about that?
Thank
kind
you.
Of stage? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I think it wasn't funny at the time. It's very funny to me now, but. The second film that I produced, I think I was 29. And it's called In the Bedroom, with someone who maybe doesn't live right. He lives a lot closer to you than he does to me. But Tom Wilkinson, and one of my favorite actors on the planet, and we made that movie for under $2 million. And if you had told me when I was 15 years old, or a little younger, or a little older, I knew I wanted to make movies, that I would be at the Oscars and the BAFTAs with a movie, I think I would be incredulous. It was not possible. Like, to me, that was like saying you're gonna fly a spaceship to Mars one day. And I have been lucky enough to have been, nominated for 2 Academy Awards for Lost in Translation and for In the Bedroom, and several Emmy Awards for a number of films that I've done for HBO. I was at the Oscars, and I was that little kid again. I mean, Paul McCartney was standing next to me. I was in an elevator with Sidney Poitier, Anthony Hopkins, and I was and it was so many mixed emotions, in that part of it was, there was pride, but there was a big part of it that was like, I don't get, people like me, people from nowhere, who don't have money and don't have connections and network, but we don't get this. Like, this isn't it's not in the cards for us. Holding down a decent enough job to be able to pay the monthly bills, that's what the dream can be. And there I was, still borrowing money from here and there, borrowing money to get a tuxedo. I didn't have a tuxedo for the Oscars. And hearing Steven Spielberg read my name when they read the the nominees are, it just taught me, I think, probably the much better that I'm not at all jaded or cynical about it. It was wonderful, but much better than having nominations and winning the Golden Globe and those kinds of things was learning that despite a lot of hardship as a child, despite coming from a family that was under constant financial stress, in debt, also really dysfunctional in terms of divorces and all those things, and not having, anybody that I could, kind of say like, well, this person can open a door for me. That it just taught me that, like, when someone says, well, people like you don't get to do this, my answer to that is, no, you are your own barrier.
Yeah.
You're the barrier.
Yeah.
You've decided, would it be easier if you had an uncle in the business who could hire you, or get you in to meet with so-and-so? Of course. But I want, some kid in the Bronx, or, is always my all-time, my sort of all-time hero, I think, artistically, is David Bowie. And I was very lucky to get to meet him. And, Brixton at the time, he had talked about, kids like us, we didn't get to make it. We didn't get to become rock stars. We were lucky if we could pay the bills. So, and I just, that's my constant message is like, I guess whenever I'm talking to someone who is considering filmmaking or working in this kind of business, or really any business that you don't have a direct connection to, is that, that should not be the barrier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's So just some of the names you just mentioned there. It's like, wow. So you said that one of your kind of thoughts were that you almost someone like you didn't do stuff like what you've achieved. So is that kind of like the imposter syndrome sort of thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I remember. I mean, I'd be, when I first became an assistant, I told everyone that I had a degree when I didn't. I didn't. I had a high school degree, but I didn't finish college or university. And I'd be sitting across from assistants doing the same job as me, who had a degree from, a school that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I felt like an imposter. I felt like I don't belong here. I don't get to sit at this table. There are tables for people like me, and this is not one of them. It's like upstairs, downstairs syndrome. And then there was a certain point where I thought, whatever I'm doing, whatever job I get that does pay the bills and, this and that, but I have no passion for it, but it pays the bills. I'm going to spend an entire life saying, I never tried. I never tried, and there have been so many times where I came very close to giving up. Very, very close. Just saying, I don't have a nest egg. I don't have a savings account. I don't have a backup plan. I have to get at it. Yeah, this is never going to work out for me. And that little, light that or fire just wouldn't go out. I just needed to tell stories.
Yeah.
And it was that total determination and enthusiasm. And I'm talking about, going through like months and months of deep depression. How am I going to get in? Where am I going to get in? Who's going to, overcoming that to get that job that would get me the next job, just getting, and not thinking too far ahead, just going, if I could just get one more movie that will keep me afloat for 6 months, then I can worry about the next 6 months,
Yeah.
And, and I think that is something I really learned, which was, your place in the world in terms of socioeconomics, not being born wealthy, not being born connected, should never stop people from reaching for the absolute top.
Yeah. Brilliant. There's just one thing you mentioned there, Ross, as well about, even if you did know someone that could open a door for you, you've got to keep that door open, haven't you? And I think that's what you need, the passion there to be able to keep that door open and go all the way, like you have done yourself. It comes back to that point where you say someone might not be genuinely passionate about something, but they might know someone which can open a door. But to go all of the way, essentially, you need more than that, don't you?
You do, and you can feel it. You really can feel it when you're I would be, the first time I saw my name in the credits of a movie was when I went to a movie theater, bought a ticket, and I saw Reservoir Dogs, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it's a little tiny thing at the very end, while the credit rolls, that nobody's paying attention to. But it was I went from, I'm going to drop out of school, I don't have any money, I don't have any connections, to I'm on this screen. I used to go, buy tickets for movies and fantasize that maybe I could do that someday. Yeah. And then I'd be brought back down to earth. Like, people like me, we don't get that. We're working class people, and we work for a living. We don't get the luxury of mixing passion with work. Mm-hmm. We just get the work to get by. And I think there was just a stubbornness in me that refused to accept that, my socioeconomic level was going to determine my future.
Yeah.
As sad as I would get, as depressed as I would get, at every stumble, every period of time I was out of work, there was just something very deep inside me that said, I want to express myself, and I want to share stories in a communal way with other people in the world. And I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it out. Yeah. So it wasn't easy.
So you talked a little bit about setbacks and things like that. Has there ever been a job you've gone for where you've gone, this is me, this is for me, this one, and you've just been knocked back or anything like that?
You mean a job that I thought I would like, and I didn't end up liking it?
Kind of been like, I'm perfect for this. Like, this is like, I don't really understand how the whole movie kind of works. You know what I mean? If you thought, that movie's, I'd love to produce that movie or whatever, but you've just been set back, and it's like, you've been like, no, it's not. We're not going to.
Yeah, there are definitely another thing that I talk to, students who are finishing university about is, figuring out what it is that is your passion, is your thing, is a big part of the process. And it's difficult to like, if you said to me, like if someone who works on a movie says they're an electrician, to me, that person is an artist, because that actor or actress, looks the way that they look because of the combined efforts of the electrician, the cinematographer, the actor, the costume designer. And so, yeah, there have been things that I thought, I'd be really good in the art department. Mm-hmm. And, it just turns out that, like, I don't have the patience for certain things. I don't, certain things, I've sold myself into, like, yeah, I love this. I love this role on a movie, doing this job. And then I would finish the movie and say, quit lying to yourself. You hated every second of it, and so, yeah, I think it's a process of experimentation and sort of like feeling when it clicks, you really get that it clicks.
Yeah, brilliant. You must have had a few sort of rejections along your journey, Ross.
A few. I mean, everybody. It's very annoying, but so I hate that it's like someone turning into their parents. Yeah. That I hate that I say this, because it used to annoy me, but people used to say, you gotta get a thicker skin. But the truth is, in my business, and it's not unique to the film business, but the film business is 99% rejection.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's you have written something, or you have something that you're going to produce, and you bring the script in. It is so much more likely that an asteroid is going to land on your head than somebody's going to say, yeah, we'll give you the money and you can go make this movie. And the rejection is brutal. Some people are, have real empathy when they're rejecting you, but some people in my business, their job is to just reject people, to read scripts and turn them down.
Yeah.
And to interview, 500 people for 3 positions. Everyone else is going to get rejected. And it's very, as many times as people have told me, you can't take it personally.
Yeah.
It has taken me so long to if I only said this, or if I screwed that interview up, if I only did this, or if I could do it, but it's constant rejection. But the thing is that the upside is you don't need 5 yeses. You need 1 yes. So when we did make In the Bedroom, that was a movie that people did not, a lot of people, they said, boy, this is beautiful writing, but, it's really depressing and long. We had 1 yes. Everybody said no. Everybody said no. I mean, we thought we're never going to get this made. We got 1 yes, and that's what got the movie made. And so we had to go through an astounding amount of rejection.
How did,
and then the 1 yes came.
Sorry, Rob. Yeah. You say you go through so much rejection there. I mean, what advice would you kind of give to people? That someone goes for a job interview, or they want and they get rejected. I mean, what advice would you give to someone to to basically pick yourself up and go again?
I would say a few things. First of all, there's so much that's subjective, and the fact of the matter is, the however many people rejected In the Bedroom because they thought it was boring, or they thought it was depressing, or whatever, was to still be able to go home at night, to grieve that, the rejection happened, but then to have the resilience to say, I still believe in me, or I still believe in this project. And it's the getting up the next day and not saying, yeah, they're right. Yeah, they're right. It'll never get made. Why am I putting why should I go through this? Why should I go through? I don't want to go through this, because I don't think I would say this one thing that is absolutely true is I have never had a single success without taking an enormous risk. A risk of, losing another job, or, Matt, you know, whatever, like it was for me going out to LA, which is completely the other side of the United States, a place that I didn't know. You know, if I wasn't able to get up in the morning and go, all right, you know, before I got that first job, it was months and months of delivering resumes to people's offices, and having the receptionist like look at me like not even a human being. Like, yeah, sure, I'll take your resume. You know, or we're not hiring. If I had let that dominate my, you know, my love of storytelling, I would never be doing, you know, the things that I've been lucky enough to do. And I think it's resilience, that it's okay to be not only disappointed, but to be sad or become depressed, but to really remember why it is you're there in the first place. Why did you do this? And for me, it's not about taking the safe route. You know, I don't want to be a guy who lives in a castle, you know, and in order to pay for that castle, I do work that is completely meaningless to me, that I'm totally dispassionate about, but I get to live in the castle. I would rather live in a cottage and say, look, wow, I got to tell this story, you know?
Nice.
Yeah, brilliant. What there, Bill?
No, I mean, it's just, you know, a lot of things there you've touched on that have just, you know, they kind of hit home personally with me, you know, in business side of things and just in life side of things. So it's nice, you know, and yeah,
it's very relatable.
I mean, I think there's always going to people. There's always going to be people that say, listen, if you just, you know, if you go to law school, you'll get a job as a lawyer. But, you know, like I have a friend who is a very, very, very good writer, but he doesn't believe in himself creatively. And he's, you know, in his late 40s. He's very wealthy, has a house that is almost just ridiculously beautiful, and a beautiful family. And he told me, I live for nights, weekends, and vacations. I don't enjoy my work, but it's too late. And I'm like, no, it's not too late. Get up 2 hours earlier on Saturday morning before your kids get up and write. You know? And that's sort of the constant lesson that keeps coming back to me. Is there's so many ways that we can sell ourselves on what we're not capable of.
It's so easy and quick to just put yourself down in it, and it's easy. Just I'm not doing that just because it's easy. And some people are afraid of taking the hard route when it could be the best decision you've ever made.
Absolutely.
And that's where the self-belief side really comes in as well, because like you said, your friend there, you know, you said he's a very talented writer, and obviously something within inside him, he doesn't believe in himself enough to put it out to the universe, and that's probably why doesn't feel really fulfilled. He's got the nice house, but not the fulfillment in his work.
And that's what I think, like, for some people, I think, having a lot of money and, whether it's like you do very well or whether it's ridiculous and you have a boat or, things, there, I see that, I see it and I feel it, that sitting in that gigantic living room in that $10,000 chair, part of you says, wow, I did this. And there's a big part of you that's saying, man, I didn't try. I didn't go for the dream. I went for, material security.
Yeah.
And as a result of it, I have that. I've got cars and houses and vacations and all that.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing anything that is personal, that is fulfilling on a personal level, that makes me feel as excited as a child.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it comes down to, yeah. Ross, we're going to have to, start wrapping it up there, just to keep it a good time for the show. But I'm sure we could talk all night. To be fair, it's been absolutely amazing.
Great to talk to you guys, and I just love the title of your podcast, and
I think you're the kind of ideal self-made mind you're just the ideal sort of person to come on for us, and that's been a brilliant chat, and hopefully people listening can take a lot from your story. So just a couple of questions just to finish off, Ross, and then we're going to wrap it up. Just give us a fact about yourself that most people won't know, if you can.
A fact that most people won't know is that I started. One of the things I wanted to do was be on the radio, and the only place I could get a job, this was before I went to LA, was on a Christian rock station.
Right.
I'm not religious, but I am a Jew.
Okay.
And there was this Jewish kid, playing Christian anthems and reading passages from the Bible on the radio. And my bosses, of course, my last name kind of gives it away, but my bosses were like, just kind of don't talk about your personal, stuff. Which was just code for like, You need, when you're here, you are, you're a Christian rock person, and people just think it's ridiculous and hilarious that I would be on a Christian rock station.
Brilliant.
I'm just gonna throw a question out there. We normally ask a different one, but what are your top 3 films of all time?
Oh, that's a terribly difficult question. Well, I can tell you my number 1 of all time is from 1959 by Francois Truffaut, called The 400 Blows. I know in the U.S. it's on Netflix, and I know having worked in the UK, some of the content is different and some is not, but it's it's a beautiful movie. There is another one would be by a Japanese director named Oshima, who was a master, and called Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, with two performances by two British actors that I would come to, find to be just kind of worship. One was Tom Conti, and the other is David Bowie.
Mm-hmm.
And although Bowie is known for being Bowie, and not really his film work so much, it is, it's a film about a large British regiment in 1942 that is captured by the Japanese and taken to Java, and it's how they survive it. And so that would definitely be in the tops for me. And then it gets really tough. Then I get into is it Raiders of the Lost Ark, or
how about Lost in Translation?
Well, I can't name my own movies. That's against the rules. That's it. But I'm very proud of that movie. But other people can name it. Yeah. You guys can name it. When you get asked this question, you better name it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, of course we will. Yeah. In the bedroom, Lost in Translation, and then
there you go. And by the way, something I will add for you is, having made films in a number of different countries, making a film in the UK is such a joy, and it's all about the people.
Nice.
There's no Hollywood cynicism. It's really, people are there because they love what they do. Yeah. And I loved our crew. I loved shooting in the UK.
Well, you'll have to come up to the north of the UK next time, and we'll hopefully give you an all different idea of what English people are like as well. It's even better up north.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
How far are you from? How far are you from Manchester?
Yeah, literally 40 minutes.
Yeah, 45 minutes, something like that.
Oh my goodness! I mean, I feel like I have to make a Morrissey pilgrimage and a James pilgrimage, and I know Morrissey's become more and more controversial as the years go on, and he does say some things that I just go, just stop talking, but I connected with, I think really just the working class roots and the music, I found such a connection to Manchester as a team,
Yeah, absolutely. It's they've been responsible for so many very famous music stars, and amazing. So Ross, that's
all right.
That's it for us. But like I say, it's been amazing speaking with you, Ross. Yeah. Thanks for your time. And
it's a real joy talking to you guys, and best of luck. This is a great show you've got, and I think it'll be, I really am excited for people to hear what you've got to share with them.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ross, and we wish you all the best with your current projects and your future ones as well. And thank you.
All right, take good care.
Yeah, thanks, Ross. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to another inspiring self-made story, and we hope you enjoyed the show. We would be very grateful if you could kindly leave us a review, as it will help us impact a wider audience. You can do this on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. If you want to reach out on the socials, find us across all platforms using @the Self-Made Minds Podcast. See you next time, and happy success making.